The train doesn't slow down as it enters the camp. It doesn't need to. Everyone inside already knows. There is nowhere left to go. The air is thick, heavy, and silent in a way that feels wrong. Not peaceful. Not calm. Just empty. Then the doors open. Light floods in. And with it, shouting. Orders barked in a language some understand, and many don't. Out. Quickly. Leave everything. People stumble forward, blinded after hours, sometimes days, in darkness. Mothers grip their children tighter. Elderly men try to steady themselves. No one understands what's happening. But everyone feels it. Something is wrong. Very wrong. This is Auschwitz. And for many who arrive here, this is the last place they will ever see. At first, it doesn't look like a place of death. There are buildings, roads, guards in uniform. It almost feels organized. That's part of the design. Confusion keeps people calm. And calm people don't resist. A line forms quickly. Men on one side. Women and children on the other. A single officer stands ahead, barely looking up as he gestures left or right. A flick of the hand. That's all it takes. Life. Or something else. There is no explanation. No appeal. No second chance. Families are separated in seconds. A father reaches for his child, but the line moves. A mother calls out, but the noise swallows her voice. For many, that moment is the last time they ever see each other. Those selected for work are marched deeper into the camp. The rest are led in another direction. They are told they are going to shower, to be cleaned, to begin their new life. Some believe it, others don't. But by the time doubt turns into fear, it is already too late. Inside the camp, time loses meaning. Days blur together. Morning begins before sunrise. A whistle, a shout, a rush of movement. Prisoners line up for roll call, standing in rows for hours, no matter the weather. Rain, snow, wind. It doesn't matter. If someone collapses, they are dragged away. The line closes, and the count continues. The barracks offer little relief. Wooden structures, overcrowded, cold, and silent at night except for coughing and whispers. Every space is shared. Every moment is watched. Sleep comes in fragments. And even in sleep, there is no escape. Because tomorrow will be the same. And the day after that. And the day after that. Food is scarce. A piece of bread. A thin soup. Never enough. Hunger becomes constant. A quiet companion that never leaves. And with hunger comes weakness. And with weakness comes danger. Because in this place, survival is a fragile thing. One mistake. One moment of exhaustion. One wrong step. And you disappear. Some prisoners are assigned to labor. Heavy, endless, and often meaningless work. Carrying, digging, moving. Tasks designed not just to use energy, but to break the spirit. Others are taken to different blocks. Places whispered about, but rarely spoken of openly. Because everyone knows. Those who go there often don't come back. Fear spreads without words. You don't need to be told. You can feel it. In the way people look away. In the way voices drop when certain subjects come up. In the way silence falls. Suddenly, some prisoners try to hold on to routines. To small pieces of their old lives. A song remembered, a prayer whispered. A story told quietly in the dark. These moments matter. Because they remind them of who they were. Before this place. Before everything changed. Friendships form in unexpected ways. Strangers become family. A shared piece of bread. A warning whispered just in time. A hand held when everything feels lost. These acts are small. But here, they are everything. Because they mean someone still cares. And caring is dangerous in a place designed to remove it. Outside, the world continues. Seasons change. Snow falls. Then melts. Spring arrives. But inside the camp, nothing feels new. Nothing feels alive. Everything remains the same. But even in a place like this, there are moments of resistance. Quiet. Hidden. Dangerous. A prisoner slows down just enough to help another. Someone shares information. Someone remembers a name. Someone refuses. In the smallest way possible. These acts may seem insignificant, but they are not, because they prove something important. That even here, humanity has not completely disappeared. As the war begins to shift, changes ripple through the camp. More prisoners arrive. Conditions worsen. Supplies run thinner. Fear grows, even among those in control. Rumors begin to spread. About the front lines. About advancing armies. About the possibility of an end. But hope is dangerous. Because hope can break you. Just as easily as despair. Some cling to it. Others push it away. Better not to believe than to be disappointed again. Then, one day, things begin to change. Orders become rushed. Movements become frantic. The system starts to crack. Prisoners notice. They don't speak of it loudly, but they feel it. Something is different. And then, the guards begin to leave. Not all at once, but enough. Enough for the silence to shift. Enough for uncertainty to grow. And then the gates open. Liberation does not look like freedom. Not at first. There are no celebrations. No cheating. Just confusion, exhaustion, and disbelief. Because after everything, after all the loss, after all the pain, freedom feels unreal. Some cannot move. Some don't know where to go. Some simply sit, staring at the open space in front of them. For many, the world they once knew is gone. Families lost. Homes destroyed. Lives erased. Survival is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of another. The struggle to remember. The struggle to forget. The struggle to live with what cannot be undone. Years later, people will return to this place. They will walk through the gates. Stand in the spaces where thousands once stood. Try to understand. Try to imagine. But it is difficult. Because places like this are not meant to be understood easily. They are meant to be remembered. So that what happened here is never reduced to numbers. Never reduced to statistics. But seen for what it truly was. Human lives. Individual stories. Moments of fear. And moments of courage. Loss. And survival. Because history is not just about the past. It is a warning. A reminder of what can happen when humanity is forgotten. And the most important question it leaves us with is not what happened, but how, and why, and what we choose to do with that knowledge. If you want more powerful stories from history that are often left untold, subscribe to the channel. Because some stories are difficult to hear, but they should never be forgotten. Even after the gates opened, the story did not end. For many survivors, leaving Auschwitz was only the beginning of a different kind of struggle. Because freedom did not erase memory. It did not undo what had been seen, or what had been lost. The world outside moved forward. Cities rebuilt. Nations tried to heal. But for those who had lived through the camp, time felt different. Some could not speak about it. Not because they didn't want to, but because words were never enough. How do you explain a place where hope was taken, piece by piece? How do you describe the silence of a barack at night, when everyone is awake, but no one speaks? How do you tell someone about fear, when it became part of your every breath? So many chose silence. They returned to their lives, carrying memories that stayed hidden, even from those closest to them. Others tried to tell their stories. Not for themselves, but for those who could not. Because millions never left. Millions whose voices were lost. Long before the war ended. One of the most well-known survivors, Primo Levi, once wrote that survival was not a victory, but a responsibility. a responsibility to remember, and to speak. Because forgetting is its own kind of danger. In the years that followed, evidence began to emerge. Documents, photographs, testimonies. The world slowly started to understand the scale of what had happened. What was once hidden behind walls and silence could no longer be denied. Trials were held. Names were spoken. Actions were examined. But justice felt incomplete. Because no trial could bring back those who were lost. No sentence could undo what had been done. And so, memory became the only form of justice that could last. Today, the camp still stands. Not as it once was, but as a reminder. People walk through its gates, not as prisoners, but as visitors. They see the barracks, the fences, the empty spaces where lives once unfolded, and they try to imagine. But imagination has limits, because the reality was far heavier than anything that can be fully understood. Each year, survivors returned, fewer and fewer as time passed, walking slowly, pausing at places that once defined their existence. Not all of them spoke. Some simply stood in silence, because sometimes, silence says more than words ever could. And then, there is the next generation. Children and grandchildren who did not experience the camp, but grew up with its shadow. Stories passed down. Fragments of memory. A history that became part of who they are. Because the past does not stay in the past. It travels forward, shaping the future in ways we don't always see. That is why remembrance matters. Not just for history, but for humanity. Because places like this do not begin with walls or fences. They begin with ideas, with words, with the slow erosion of empathy. And if those lessons are forgotten, history has a way of repeating itself. Not in the same form, but in ways that are just as dangerous. That is why stories like this must continue to be told. Not to shock, not to frighten, but to remind. To remind us of what humans are capable of, both in cruelty and in resilience. Because even in the darkest places, there were moments of courage. A shared piece of bread, a whispered warning, a hand reaching out, when everything else had been taken. Those moments matter, because they prove something powerful. That even when everything is stripped away, humanity can still survive. And maybe that is the most important part of this story. Not just what was lost, but what remained. So as we leave this place, as we step away from its history, we carry something with us. A responsibility to remember, to learn, and to ensure that silence never allows something like this to happen again. Because forgetting is easy, but remembering is what protects the future.